Hello everybody, welcome to episode 10 of the Midweek Malt. Here is your host Robbie of robbiestalkingts.
Hello everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the Midweek Malt. I can't believe it, 10 episodes. I thought this thing would die after only a couple due to not getting much interest in comparison to my normal everyday run-of-the-mill content. But you know what? There's a large portion of you out there listening and enjoying it, so thank you. I'm really enjoying doing it and it makes it worthwhile getting the feedback from you guys. Talking about content, thanks to everyone who's watched this week's videos. I've posted 2 so far this week. This is going to be the 3rd one. It's more content than normal, but I've had a lot more time on my hands, so hopefully you enjoyed it. I was really impressed with the Hanamavilus Nika rehousing and the bioactive setup. The feedback that got was absolutely fantastic, so thank you. And you know what? I absolutely loved creating it, which is why this Saturday coming, I am going to be rehousing my Pislotheria subfusca lowland female that I'm getting off Peter Webster. So that's going to be one to look out for. I've just got to go out and buy a couple more things for the new enclosure. I'm hoping to do bigger and better than the last setup. But anyway, you're not here to find that out, or you're not interested in that. You're interested in what I have to talk about today. And today I'm answering a couple of your questions that have been sent in. 2, maybe 3 questions, depending on how long this podcast goes on for. So the first question, which I found really interesting that got sent to me, was: how has the hobby changed since when you first started? Care changes, mentality changes, popularity changes, etc. Now, when I first got into the hobby, I'll take it from a YouTube perspective, because I've been on YouTube for as long as I've been in the hobby, basically. It's changed a hell of a lot. Back when I first started, there were a handful of channels that were giving out care and husbandry advice, or just showing off their animals, and it was more of like a family atmosphere, that everyone was in it together and everyone helped each other out, and the care and husbandry information was shared among keepers, so basically the same sort of message was getting out. I mean, there were a few channels that weren't involved, that didn't care, that gave out really terrible advice, which blew up really quickly, and a lot of people still watch them today. But on the whole, the hobby's mentality was sort of governed by a few sort of YouTubers and a couple of like forums and groups, and it was sort of a smaller affair, so to speak. It was a lot more friendly, it was a lot more, people were more open to discussion, people were more open to new ideas in the hobby, and people were just more accepting of other people and their ideas in general. Now, as the years have gone on and the popularity of the hobby has increased, there are more and more YouTube channels starting. There are more and more people, I'll say, taking sides in the hobby. I see it a lot in groups where like someone will ask a question and someone will say, well, I've watched this person or spoken to this person and they've told me X, Y, and Z. That's how it is. That's correct information, blah, blah, blah. And then on the other side, you'll have someone with a whole different perspective who will say, no, I watched this person and they say this, they say that. you're wrong, blah, 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 I'm right, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot more antagonism in the hobby. I think there's a lot more of, there's a bigger rise in the mentality of I'm right, you're wrong, what I have to say is important, what you're saying means nothing. And I've seen that happen on like YouTube channels, and I've seen people's egos grow because of people siding with channels. I've seen, because of that, really good channels turn bad over time because they succumb to peer pressure, and like I said, egos overinflate, and all of a sudden the reasons why they started out are not the reasons they're still doing it now. It becomes less about the hobby and more about reputation, which is really, really sad to see, especially when it's the animals that we love and what are in our care, which is the most important thing. I've seen care information change as time has gone on. There has been a lot of forward movements in our learning and how we understand these animals. There are more, from what I've seen, more experts getting involved with people that are just getting in the hobby and sharing scientific explanations of things and why certain advice is given out in the hobby, whereas before it was sort of a secret that only the elitists were allowed to know, and you had to, get into some sort of holy grail inner circle to find out. And yeah, that's changed. People's mentality in the hobby has changed to the fact of, I think the world are becoming more accepting that this is a hobby, and I think people are less likely now to judge. But I think that's due to cultural differences as a whole, like sexuality or gender or race and things like this. They've all been put out there over the last 10 years or so in a major way that, people are more accepting of anything these days, and that's benefited the hobby on a scale of like 10 years ago, if you was in the hobby, you was thought to be, some sort of person still living at home, no friends, no hobbies, no life, and all you did was sit at home with these spiders in your room, and you was kind of creepy and freaky and no one wanted anything to do with you. Now, as time has gone on, the attitude has changed where people are like, you know what, you keep these animals? That's kind of cool. I don't like them myself, but I'm interested to know more. Tell me about them. And then, people are starting to learn that the past, I'll say, media driven ideas about these animals is actually really false, and I think that's great. I'm hoping in the next 10 years we can get to a point where keeping tarantulas is no different to, like, say, keeping cats or dogs. It's just whatever, you keep them, that's fine. But it's going to take some time to get there, but I strongly believe that one day we will get there. And also, popularity changes. What you said, the hobby is definitely growing and growing and growing. Even if I think back then to the first ever invert show I went to, like the numbers that were at that invert show compared to the last one I went to are it's tripled. It's getting bigger. It's increasing. The amount of people that are getting into the hobby and openly sharing the hobby is definitely increasing. the amount of forums that are popping up, Facebook groups, Instagram pages, social media, any social media on tarantula keeping is on the increase. It's a joy to see, even though I do see the detrimental sides to it to a degree, where, you know, the larger the hobby gets, the easier it is for people to be taken advantage in the hobby, i.e., you know, scammers on the internet selling things, or misinformation being handed out more freely and stuff like that. But on the whole, raising awareness for these animals is what it's all about. So that's how it's changed. It's got bigger, it's got better in some aspects, and it's gone backwards in some aspects as well. So that's how it's changed. Hopefully that answers your question. The next question I got: a list of underrated tarantulas in your opinion, maybe a post of overrated if you feel there are any. Well, my list of underrated tarantulas, I'll do a top 5 list. My top 5 list of underrated tarantulas, I think I said this on a previous podcast. I think Tiliacatl albicolossus is definitely my number 1 underrated species of all time. I think they're absolutely beautiful. I think people that say they're just boring brown spiders are wrong. The gold and silver colorations and the white colorations in the hair are amazing to look at. Whenever I look at mine, I've got 3 adult females, and I think they're absolutely stunning. Like, for me, I would happily look at that all day. The next underrated tarantula on my list would be any avicularia species. There was a stigma in the hobby not long ago that, you know, not many people were interested in avicularia. They just thought they was boring. They're boring spiders that, you know, you hardly ever see, and they wasn't as good as, say, picking up like a Poecilotheria, or, you know, an old world species, or a new world that's brightly coloured. But as time's gone on, since the new morphotypes have been brought to the hobby's awareness and more people have started picking them up, there has become a surge of people saying, you know, avicularias are my favourite species. But that's only been happening in the last couple of years, so I'll still say they are underrated, because if people are given the choice, a lot of people still don't pick them up, and they really should. I think they're fantastic. Number 3 on my list as an underrated species would be any Lacerdaura species. I know in the last couple of months there has been a huge surge in people going crazy, absolutely mental for Lacerdaura species. But prior to that surge of people picking them up, you couldn't even give them away for love nor money. So, you know, for me, any Lacerdaura, whether it's, you know, Parahabana or Klugi or Striatopes, they're all absolutely amazing and make a really good first tarantula. Number 4 on my underrated species list would be number 4 on my list, Samopaeus. Something like Samopaeus cambridgei. Now, I see a lot of people go crazy for like Armenia or Victoria, or, you know, Reduncus. Even a Reduncus, they're not as popular as the other 2. But yeah, alright, I'll do a joint for Samopaeus cambridgei and Samopaeus reduncus. I think they're stunningly beautiful. I don't think enough people breed them. I do think more people are blown away by like the coloration and stuff of the Armenia, so tend to sway towards them. But, you know, definitely consider picking up a cambridgei or a redunculous. I mean, a Cambridge eye, when you pick up a Cambridge eye, if you get a full-grown adult female, they are a big, beefy, stunning spider. I had a female not long ago that was easily 7 inches. It was out all the time, it was on display. It was a joy to keep. Unfortunately, she passed away, but for me, whenever I saw her out, that was like, wow, wow. Look at it, the greens and the oranges. What more do you want? There's not a lot of green spiders in the hobby. So that's one right now. They're cheap, they're readily available, they're easy to breed. There's no reason why people shouldn't be picking them up. They're stunning. My 5th underrated tarantula would be gramostola porteri. Now I know they've got a fan base, but you know, not a lot of people snap them up. I see a lot of slings on sale all the time, and you know, people like, they breed them and they get them and they've got them in their care for a long time before they've all been purchased. Now I know they're not as, what's the word? They're not as alluring as, say, Iheringi or Action or Gramostola porteri, because, you know, or Rosea, because they're a lot more rarer in the UK hobby. But as a readily available species, they are definitely one to have in your collection. Who doesn't want gold and black tarantula in their collection? That's crazy. So yeah, that's my 5. That's my 5 underrated species. I know a lot of you out there are probably going to watch this and say, you're crazy, I've got all of those. But you gotta understand, a lot of people out there, they see them and they just go, yeah, not for me, and they opt for something else. You also asked for my overrated species. Now I'm not going to be able to do a top 5, but I can do a couple, and a couple of them I don't think a lot of you are going to be happy with. My first most overrated species is the Monocentropus balfouri. Now don't get me wrong, they are a stunning looking tarantula, they're great to look at, but I found in my experience you hardly ever see them out. Now for me, if I've got a communal in a tank enclosure like I've got now, like 5 or 6, I would like to see one every now and then, like, but no, come on, occasionally you see a couple of toes, put food in there, never see them, very rarely. And a lot of people blow up and go, oh, balfouris, they're fantastic, they're amazing. Yeah, they are when you get to see them. But most of the people that rant and rave about balfouri communals have got very big communals. I'm talking like, you know, 20, 30 plus in an enclosure. With that many, you're going to see them, you're going to see more of the behaviour. But for the average hobbyist who's only going to have, you know, one on its own or 5 or 6, for me, not seeing them at all for such a stunning species, I'd rather spend my money on, you know, a Brachypelma that I'm going to see out in the open, like even like a Brachypelma amori or a bone meat or something like that. At least I'm going to get more sort of interaction with it, and you know, it is what it is. This is number 1's Monocentropus balfouri. The second one, even though I'm giving one away on the 2000 subscriber giveaway, for me, T. Celedonia. T. Celedonia has to be up there with one of the most overrated species in the hobby. Yes, it's got stunning colours, but how difficult they are to care for, again, how often you see them, and B, or three even, C, the hefty price tag. For me, that's just not worth it. It's really, really not worth it. I understand that, you know, they're stunning and whatnot, the colours are great, but you can get the same stunning colours on, say, a Carabiner Versicolor. Now, you're more likely to see a Carabiner Versicolor for a fraction of the price, even though their prices have gone up recently since when I first started in the hobby. I'm quite shocked, especially as how readily available they actually are. The huge increases, I don't think that's justified. So yeah, Moloscentropus balfouri, T. Celedonia. Have I got another one? No, I don't think I have. I think that's my top two. I'm going to stick with that top two. So hopefully that answers that question. The last question I'm going to answer is, what tarantulas could you never live without? You will always have them in your care. That is so easy. I could never live without Poecilotheria. For me, Poecilotheria or Poecilotheria, however you want to say it, it's up to you, are the genus of tarantulas that if they was all wiped off the planet today and only one genus could stay, I would have to have Poecilotheria. For me, their anatomy and their body structure and how they hunt, it's so unique in comparison to other species. Like, you know, even down to the markings, the yellows on the underside of the legs, the stripes up the legs, the way even the shape of their carapace and the chelicerae and the patterns on the abdomen, they just, for me, they blow me away. Like, it doesn't matter which one I'm looking at, which is why I struggle to pick my favourite one. For me, they are the most unique and stunning species there are out there. Now, I know a lot of you are probably shouting 100 different species at me, which is why I'm doing a genus. I can't just pick one species. I'm going to pick a genus because any one of them will more than suffice for me. But even, you know, just little things, the reputation that they have, this is what swayed it for me. When I first picked up Poecilotheria, I heard all the horror stories of they're aggressive, they're crazy, they want to eat you, they just bolt around, they move at 1,000,000 miles an hour, they're hard to care for. I picked up my first Pokey, which was a Regalis, which I still have now, is a sub-adult female, or maybe an adult female. I haven't seen it in a couple of months because it's been in pre-molt. But the ease of care, the calmness, like I always say when I'm rehousing a Poecilotheria, if you're calm, if you're not jittery and you're not jumpy, and you just do things nice and calm and peacefully, that tarantula is going to have the same calmness as, you know, a New World terrestrial. It's not going to bolt about, it's not going to go crazy, and if it does, it's not going to go far. Like, it's going to bolt, it's going to hide, it's going to freeze. That's it. If you really keep poking it, then yeah, like any other tarantula in the hobby, in the world, you know, any other species, you keep poking it with a stick, eventually it's going to go, I've had enough of this, I'm going to defend myself. And you're going to get that defensive behaviour. I totally understand that. But ease of care, like, they're fantastic. They eat regularly. When they don't eat, you pretty much know they're in pre-molt. They burrow away, they hide away. Watching them go from, you know, burrowers as slings to them full arboreal tarantulas, for me, that is amazing. and their growth rate, how quickly they grow from slings to adults, it's phenomenal. There's nothing about this tarantula that for me isn't fascinating. So that's the answer to the question. If I could keep or could never live without one tarantula or one genus, it would be Poecilotheria. 100%. If I couldn't have Poecilotheria and it was a terrestrial, I've said it 100 times, then it would be any Phomictopus species. I love Phomictopus more than you will ever know. Picking up new Phomictopus for me, even if I've got 2, 3, 4 of them in the collection, I'll always pick up another one. But out of the two, it's definitely Poecilotheria for me. But those are the top 2. So that's it. That's the podcast. That's all I've got to say. If you agree with what I said or disagree with what I said, feel free to write down in the comments your opinion or anything, you know, your answers to the questions. I always enjoy getting you viewers' perspective on anything I've said. It helps me maybe change my mind, see things in a different way, learn from it, and it also helps me learn what you guys want to get in future content. So for me, it's a complete learning experience. So definitely write in the comments if you agree, don't agree, who, what, where and why. And if you have more questions that you would like answered in a future podcast, then also write them down there as well. I will definitely get round to answering every single question in a podcast at some point. These just happen to be the ones I got at the beginning of the week, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to do them. But we're going to end the podcast here. I just want to say before we go, one final thing. We are getting closer to the 2,000 subscriber giveaway we're doing on the channel, which is absolutely fantastic. Huge thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far. We're on 1,705, I believe. So we're edging closer to that 2K giveaway. If this is your first time here and you've never been on the channel before, we're at 2K subscribers, I'll be giving you the chance to win a T. Celedonia and a Ferrophosa apophysis. Ferrophosa apophysis. All you have to do is be subscribed to the channel, go over and watch my Gramostola rosea video and just write T. Celedonia in the comments. Once you've done that, you'll be entered. So good luck with that. That's it. That's all you need to know in today's podcast. I'm ending it here. Have a nice week. Hopefully I'll see you in Saturday's video. Take care. Goodbye.